welcome to new board members, welcome to returning board members. The first item on our agenda this evening is a report from Superintendent Dr. Stella from the Woodbridge Board of Education. Dr. Stella, welcome.
Well, good evening, everyone. I just want to take this opportunity to extend best wishes to our new first selectman and members, new and old, of the Board of Selectmen, and to tell you that we're anxious and looking forward to working with you in the coming year and in the future to do the best we can for our children with higher quality education, at the same time always remembering our residents and taxpayers at the same time. I have a little bit of jet lag because I recently returned from an 8-9 day visit to the public school system of the city of Shenzhen in China. It's a very interesting city because it's the newest city in China. It's 30 years old. 30 years ago, there was a village of 16,000. Today, it's a city of 16 million. And it's actually the gateway to China. It's where east meets west. It's a fast-moving, fast-paced city. Lots of high-end types of corporations there. And it's a school system, a very dynamic school system that's interested and has an urgency in developing their students as global citizens or aware of the global society that we have. We had a visit from their human resource director last year to Beecher, and I guess he fell in love with the school. We built a relationship, and he invited me to come with two members of our staff. I brought our assistant principal, Nancy White, who had previously gone to Shandong province in China, and also our teacher of the year, Jean Dempsey. And the trip was paid for by their department. What I did was I did a number of educational presentations while I was there, and we had a vigorous schedule of visiting 3 to 4 schools a day, with lots of conferences and educational presentations in between. But the school system there is Dr. Fong, who is the head of the human resources, considers our educational system as a first-class educational system, and he's looking to get acquainted and to have relationships and obviously we're looking for ways that will be of benefit to our students. Global awareness is a priority as I see it with our vision of the school district. We're more and more an international school, which is a very positive thing. 17% of our student population is Asian, and we have children from all countries. And a number of our families return to their home country during the summer. Yesterday I sent a family off to Lebanon. I met with the children, and they have their journal writing to do and picture taking to take. And we had families going to India, a variety of countries. So again, we'll try to use this to our benefit. I'll be reporting to the Board of Education and providing information on an ongoing basis. We're off to a good start with the summer programs. As I always say, Beecher Road School is a school that never sleeps. You could see that in action. There are a variety of programs that are going on. We have the summer enrichment that has approximately, I would say, about 130 children. We have a rec program with about 160. We have our extended day with about 85 children. We have a summer literacy camp. There's a special ed camp. So you add them all together, and you have several hundred children at the school, plus the adults involved. We're very fortunate to have many of our staff members during the year who actively participate in the summer programs. We also have students from Amity High School, former graduates of Beecher Road School, coming back to help too, and they're excellent role models. In collaboration with the University of California, a graduate PhD student from their Department of Computer Science will be offering our children a 7-day course in computer programming. We expect the course to be oversubscribed. She's the daughter of one of our staff members and is a wonderful, wonderful role model for our children. There's a lot more to report, but we want to save some information for our annual report to the citizens in our edition of The Bridge, which we anticipate sending out in late August. But again, we look forward to working with all of you, and you're all invited at any time to come to Beecher Road School. It's your school, it's our school, our community school. We're very proud of it. I would mention too, I'm sorry, I always have to put a little commercial. Some of the programs are going very, very well. Some of the challenges are, one is the heat. Last Thursday and Friday, some children had to be sent home because of the heat. Some parts of the building are really intolerable during the summer months. And also our A wing is, we had to move classes because of the type of moisture accumulation and other problems associated with it. So it always gives me an opportunity to thank the town for seriously taking a look at that, the need for an upgrade, and having a town committee looking at it so seriously. We are in desperate need of that upgrade. So we will look forward to that. But if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Dr. Stella? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Sounds like a very
support. We always
exciting
appreciate
trip,
that.
and Thank you, Dr. Stella.
Welcome home.
I'd like to move that we change item number 5, move it up on the agenda now. We generally, if we have a staff person from Town Hall here, and Mary Ellen Naraka is with us, so I would move that we move the Human Services item up to number 2. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Hi, Mary Ellen.
Good evening, everyone, and I look forward to working with the new members of the board along with the former members. I just want to explain a little bit about our membership with Greater New Haven Transit District. As a member, as one of the members, we're able to participate in drug and alcohol testing for our drivers and also for the mechanic and Lee Canning through the Greater Hartford Transit District Consortium. And they created a policy, which we had a former policy where our drivers and employees were tested through Foley Services. We do pre-employment drug tests and alcohol tests, random testing, and then suspicion, or if there's an accident, we do post-accident. Anyway, the Greater Hartford Transit District changed their contract, and they're now with occupational drug testing. So we had to redo the policy for our employees, and that's the policy that was sent out to you, which hopefully will be approved this evening. So this actually went into effect July 1st.
Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the new drug and alcohol misuse policy? So moved. Second? Thank you. Any discussion or questions for Mary Ellen?
Sure.
I had one question. I had a copy of what you sent forth, but I think what are the real differences in your opinion? Is there any from the old policy to this policy?
Not really. Very similar. Very similar. And what I did do is I compared this policy to the policy at Public Works, so that basically all employees are treated fairly within the town. And ours is a little more detailed and specific, but basically, you know, if they're caught with a positive, the same consequences happen.
I guess that was really my question. Otherwise, that's daily guidance or is that appropriate? Because he's seen it and he's approved it as well.
And this is at no charge. We don't pay for it because it is through the consortium and through Greater New Haven Transit.
So essentially we're getting the same thing, just with a different vendor.
Yes, exactly. And they provide all the training for us and so forth.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a request for use of the town green. Is Barbara Alexander here? She was coming in from New York City, so okay, so we'll skip over that now and go to Farmland Preservation Grant regarding 902 Golden Road. Jim Romano.
And also Paul Costa to work on the farmland preservation draft plan.
Paul, do you want to come up to the table also?
Here. Want to get comfortable, sir?
This is fine.
It's actually about the draft farmland preservation plan, which is a proposed amendment to the open space plan. It's a plan that the state requires we include in our town plan of conservation and development in order to qualify for certain state grant monies. 902 Baldwin Road is a property that the Conservation Commission, the previous Conservation Commission, had voted to apply for grant monies in the interest of trying to protect it. But that's a side issue. The focus here is specifically the proposed amendment to the town open space plan. So I was at TP&Z last Monday and following through on the unanimous recommendation of the Conservation Commission, requesting that the TP&Z amend its open space plan to include a farmland preservation program. Again, it's a qualifying requirement so as to be eligible for state grant monies. The town council opined on the proposed amendment. I think, from my read, I think the opinion was positive. TP&Z wanted to get the sense of the Board of Selectmen as to how it feels on this amendment. An important new bit of information to consider is that on July 1st, Governor Malloy signed SB 842, which is a bond package which includes a total of $20 million in funding for the Farmland Preservation Program over the next 2 years. It also included the same amount of funding, another $20 million, for the state's open space and watershed acquisition grants, which provides matching funds for municipalities, nonprofit organizations, and water companies to preserve open space and farmland. When we started on this proposal, there were 18 communities in Woodbridge that have qualified with the state for the grant monies. As of last week, there are 25 that have qualified. We'd like to get our place in line for Woodbridge and qualify for the state monies as well. And that's the request.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you have questions, by the way?
Yeah. Are there questions? People want to?
I have a question. So, based on what you've seen in other towns that have been approved, what type of money do you think may be available, or what type are you looking for? How much do you think you can get from us here in this particular?
Well, if I could read from Attorney Weiner's letter to the TP&Z. State Community Investment Act funds are made available to eligible municipalities and can provide the bulk of funding for the purchase of appropriate properties along with municipal contributions. So conceivably, the state can provide the bulk of the funding.
I think historically they've done 70%. I think that's the
Okay.
program. 70% of the purchase price for the town pays for the 30%.
So hypothetically, if it's a $1 million purchase, it's $700,000 would come from the state, $300,000 from the town.
Jim, I just want to clarify, so you are not here to speak about 902 Baldwin Road, because I saw the TP&Z had suggested that you come to the board for the Board of Selectmen's sense of the purchase of 902 Baldwin Road, but you're really not
No,
talking
we're
about
not
that
here
at
for
all.
that. That's a
You're just
separate
talking
issue that would need to come back to the board for your review and approval.
So you're just speaking generally about amending, having in our town plan of conservation and development, the language that would make the town eligible for these grants if we meet all the other criteria.
Specifically for that purpose, yes.
So we're not doing anything at this point in terms of the other requirements for Attorney Weiner's letter?
Actually, we've done most of them already.
Yeah.
In anticipation of a grant application for 902 Baldwin Road, if this board approves that. We've gone to the NRCS, the Natural Resource and Conservation Service. The state requires an inventory of farmlands. It's done a soil study for 902 Baldwin. But again, that is a separate issue that you may or may not approve down the road. The amendment that we're asking for is something that qualifies us for state funding should you deem any property a need to acquire. Again, if Terry Calson's Hillside Farm came on the market tomorrow what can we do? It's a property that most people want to preserve. What can we do to preserve it? We have no funding mechanism in place other than the town open space funds that have been approved in our budget. But we have no ability to request state monies through this specific program. So,
So
one
what
of the
are
other-
we supposed to do here?
I'm sorry.
Why are
What
we-
action or?
Yeah, I mean,
I think, as I understand it, was really the suggestion of TP&Z that Jim come here to get our sense about the purchase of Baldwin Road. But I believe he's changed that, and so you just want to inform the board about this program.
well,
Is that,
Ellen, I went to TP&Z, and it was the recommendation, again, the unanimous recommendation of the Conservation Commission to go to TP&Z and request an amendment to the open space plan. That was the purpose of the meeting with them, July 1st. They did not act on that. We are hoping to be able to qualify for the state grant monies. So the issue on the table is becoming eligible for the state farmland preservation, community farms preservation program. 902 Baldwin Road is a site that the Land Trust has endorsed protecting. It's a site that is part of the green belt around Woodbridge. It has, according to the NRCS study, more than about 60% of prime agricultural soils or soils of importance to the state of Connecticut. That's their term. So it is something that merits preservation, but again, that's a separate issue. This program, if you approve the amendment, if TP&Z approves the amendment, we can qualify for state monies to help protect that land if the board decides to approve a grant application. So there's many steps that need to be taken in order to attempt a grant application for a specific site. The first step here is to get approved an amendment to our open space plan.
and that's a TP&Z issue.
That's correct, which it's asked, my understanding was it wanted your endorsement.
So you're asking for our
I don't
consent
guess
to
we'll
go back to
vote.
TPZ?
They asked me to go back on the 15th.
So you're coming here to say,
Will you support?
do we, yeah.
He
Are we
wants to know
supporting to
if we
support
have-
you to go back to TPZ and ask for the amendment?
That's correct.
But nothing to do with 902 Baldwin Road?
No, that's not on the table.
Unfortunately, Jim, that's what they gave us was all the information for 902, including maps. So I guess that's why we were confused as to why.
The subject of the meeting was not 902, although we talked about it at length because it is a property that the Conservation Commission would like to protect. It has been in our open space plan way before I became involved with conservation. So it's one deemed to be worthy of protection. But that's not the issue at hand. The issue at hand is qualifying for state monies, getting our fair share for the people of Woodbridge.
Right, so I think what you're presenting to us is different from what we understood and from the excerpt from the TP&Z minutes, was that you would be here to ask about 902 Baldwin Road. But you just wanted to.
I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about 902 Baldwin.
But that's not what you're asking. You just wanted to inform us about the amendment that would be necessary to qualify. Is that
Correct,
right?
and looking for your endorsement.
Oh,
Not that it's required, TP&Z.
right.
Yeah, I'm as confused as everybody else. It sounds to me a little bit like we have a problem with timing. And by that I mean, there are a lot of people, it sounds like, who might want to act on 902 Baldwin Road, and we have to have this amendment. But because which may be a fabulous idea, but it's within the jurisdiction of TP&Z. And my sense is that TP&Z just wanted to know whether or not, let me take a step back myself. And the amendment that TP&Z would perhaps, since we have to do the entire plan of conservation and development anyway, very soon,
Well,
that they didn't want to do the two-step process of, or maybe they do or they don't, but a two-step process of amending it to do this would only be done as a condition of pursuing the 902 Baldwin Road. I think that's how it ended up here. And TP&Z was looking for some sort of signal about whether or not we, the Board of Selectmen, are interested enough in 902 Baldwin Road to direct them to amend rather than look at the big picture when they do the entire reevaluation of the plan of conservation and development. Is that what's happened?
Well,
Yes?
I think
Okay.
that's
All right.
correct.
I just wanted, okay, that being the case, we have a little bit of disconnect here, it seems to me.
not necessarily.
Well, because we don't tell TP&Z, at least I don't feel that it's our responsibility it would be inappropriate, in fact, to tell TP&Z this is how the plan of conservation should be
I agree.
developed
I was
at this
surprised
point.
that they asked me to come here.
Right, I think it's a disconnect. I think they thought you were focused on 902 Baldwin. We
Well,
thought you were focused
it is-
on 902
well,
Baldwin.
as a
But in
point
fact,
of
it's a
fact-
structural issue.
Certainly.
It's a structural issue.
As a point of fact, Robert Hitchcock, the owner of 902 Baldwin, has submitted to the town of Woodbridge a offer to sell. So it is a property that is on the market. He's giving us an opportunity to purchase it. And if we had this amendment, we can qualify for state monies if this board approved a grant application specifically for that property. Without the amendment to the open space plan, we are powerless to act on the offer to purchase, his offer to sell. We're powerless. So we're asking for the ability to go forward. We can discuss 902 Baldwin at the appropriate time. Happy to discuss it now, but I think it's premature. The intention is, right now, the state statutes are evolving, have evolved since 2003. We don't qualify for this pool of money. It's an important pool of money.
Well,
Waiting 2 years to revise our current open space plan could cost us the loss of several precious properties in Woodbridge in the interim.
All right, so let me ask you a question. If 902 Baldwin Road was not in play, as it were, would the land trust and you as an individual, because I gather that's the capacity of what you're speaking with here,
Yes.
would still be interested in pursuing this type of change to the plan of conservation and development,
Absolutely.
notwithstanding the Baldwin Road case?
So we can be proactive. If another property came on the market tomorrow, what do we do? That's a
Okay.
key property to the town center.
So
Thank you. Yeah.
you're looking to make potential funding available, a place to go for potential funding, regardless of the property, not about 902.
Even-
902 may qualify for this very
That's right.
funding.
That's right. May not,
Because
may fail.
actually, the way I read Jeffrey Kaufman's letter to us is well, okay, I'm sorry, that's Jerry's to Jeff. It is worded, the first part of it, in that manner, that this is really to take the steps applicable to make for state funding to be available. So I
The
kind
letter is a
of make a
mention
connection
of at
now.
all.
But, yeah, it wasn't clear to us, but I do make that connection now.
It's clear now, but I still don't understand what we can do here tonight in terms of, I understand what Jim's asking for, but I don't think, TP&Z apparently said to him, come see what we think about this before they act, and I agree with Susan, I don't know what, we can't tell
We
them
don't
what to
have,
do.
yeah, and I'll just, for the record, I will read what I have from the minutes, which is what we were sort of basing it on. The commission members asked Mr. Urbano to go to the Board of Selectmen to discuss the potential purchase of the 902 Baldwin Road property. If the Board of Selectmen is amenable to the idea of such a purchase, then the TPZ would consider amending the TPCD to address the Farmland grant issue. If not, then the amendment would be addressed as part of the wholesale update to the TPCD, which was Susan's point. So I think, if you want to, if the issue is whether or not we should, in the plan of conservation and development, include language to make this available to the town of Woodbridge, and you want our individual opinions, I guess my individual opinion is, I certainly think that should be part of our plan. Whether it should be an expedited change, that is not clear to me from any of the information I have. And I don't think there's any official work or position of the board. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything individually, but I think we've sort of gone around the issue and we understand it. Right? Anything else?
So you're saying that you don't favor an amendment to the open space plan now so as to qualify for the state monies?
I would say I do. I
Okay.
don't know that means.
That's what we're looking for.
Are we able to do that?
I don't know if we can take a position on it.
Well, yeah, an amendment to the open space plan is a simple process.
I think it sounds like a great idea to try.
Jerry's outlined it,
Well, that's right.
so that's what we're asking for.
Well, that seems to be a TP&Z issue and not for us to decide. And I don't know what's involved in a plan amendment.
I mean, here's what, it makes me want to leave this table and come around as a member of the public, say, this is something that sounds like an absolutely marvelous idea, and we should be doing it. I mean, the concept is right. Right. But I don't see how, on this side of the table, there's anything that's ripe enough, if you will, for us to vote on. There's nothing ripe enough here for us to do anything with.
Except
And by the way, I'm happy to get up and go around the table and say that.
Susan, except that we have the opportunity, we're on borrowed time with Bob Hitchcock, to follow through.
So it is about 902 Broad.
It is. It is
Okay.
tangential.
So
Yes.
that's why, I mean, we have to be very clear about what we're talking about here. And as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, a good part of this property is in Derby.
That's
Most
correct.
of it is in Derby.
All of the backland is...
It's not even in
The
Woodbridge.
frontage, half of the fields you see from Baldwin Road, the view shed from Baldwin Road is 50% in Woodbridge, more so in Derby. So if that land was developed, that Woodbridge view shed would be ruined. That's the concern of the town. That was the concern of the Conservation Commission. It was actually by unanimous vote. So we have an opportunity to work with Bob Hitchcock. You may not favor the grant application for that specific property, or you may, but that's a step down the road. In the meantime, we need this tool in our toolbox to even consider such an endeavor.
Right. But you're not asking us to discuss 902 Golden Road this evening and
Just giving
something.
you, well, but it is time sensitive. We don't have unlimited time to work with Bob Hitchcock on this. So unless we have this amendment in place, we don't qualify for the state money. We can't even pursue the opportunity that we now have to protect that.
When you
land.
say we, you mean we as a town?
We as a town,
Okay.
collectively, we are the town of Woodbridge. We're not-
So Jim, I'm sure you can appreciate how complicated this is for us to take precipitous action to buy a piece of property, 2/3 of which is in another town. I don't even know if we're allowed to do that.
Susan,
Off the
those are
top
all-
of my head.
those are all good comments, all good points, and that is a discussion we need to have. And that's a discussion we can have down the road. But let's qualify for the state money in the interim. If a for sale sign was placed on Callison's Hillside Farm tomorrow, we're positioned to act on that. Without this amendment, we can't avail ourselves of this important pocket of state money. And we've been encouraged by the state, we've been welcomed by the state to participate in the program. So we're trying to follow through, asking for your cooperation so that we can qualify. Simply an eligibility issue.
So as I understand it, because I agree with you, but as I understand it, if I look at Attorney Weiner's letter, he lays out what we have to do, what's required, what are the elements that the town has to do to qualify for this money.
Yes.
One of which is amend our conservation.
Yes.
That's one. The other is 1 through 6. You say you're working on 1
That's
through 6.
correct.
So really, if we all agree that we would like to do what we have to do to be eligible for that money, for whatever piece of property comes along, the question then is, what do we have to do? And I think you're telling us we have to expedite the amendment of the
Yes.
conservation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how do we do that?
We don't.
That's up to
don't.
TPNC.
Right, TPC does it, but they send them here, so I think that's the
But
disconnect.
that's not the question that they sent you here for.
No,
I
but
don't-
that's where Jim, I mean, that's, as we discuss it,
Right.
that's really why Mr. Urbano's here.
Right.
So if we get right down to why he's sitting
To
here.
expedite a
Then-
change in the plan.
So if TPZ's sending him here, I don't know whether they really understood what he's saying because they interjected 902. Maybe they did that because that's the expeditious factor here, that we have to do it quickly because of 902. But aside from that, Jim's saying, listen, we have to do this anyway so that we can be eligible for this money irrespective of whatever piece of property we may be interested in.
Well,
So,
I
do we
don't
send
think-
them
I
back
still
to
don't think this-
TPZ? He's got to go to TP&Z and they have to amend the, if they choose, they have to amend the conservation plan.
you know, something else we could do is send it to the new Conservation Commission to take a look also and see if they feel that there's a need for expediting. Let it go to the new commission and then to
Who's
TP&Z.
the new commission? What's the new commission?
I mean,
The new
the new members of the commission, or it can go back to TP&Z.
Well, I was asked to come back on the 15th. So
So
I
you're going back
intended-
anyway?
The TP&Z.
I'll be there on the 15th, and I would hope that at that meeting, they would approve the amendment. It's a draft that needs to be refined by town council and so forth, but we know what we need to do. They're all very manageable. It's a simple process. Just as the state statutes are fluid and evolve, and this farmland preservation program became available, the pilot program became available in 2011, we need to be fluid enough to be able to avail ourselves of these changes.
Jim, can I
Yes.
Has the town prioritized farms for preservation?
Yes, it has.
And where is that?
902 Baldwin is on that list and has been on that list since before. I was on the Conservation Commission for 12 years. It was on that list when I became a member.
So there's a list of farms with a ranking scoring system that's been approved. We meet that criteria already in the
We
town.
have. The Conservation Commission ranked 902 Baldwin.
How's it ranked on the, how many are on the list? And
Number one, Paul?
Well, it's on the, it has been for many years on the list of prime candidates for preservation.
and that was contemplating, I don't know the acreage, it's about 86 acres, is that right?
86, precisely.
And how many acres are in Woodbridge?
11 are in Woodbridge, 76 in Derby.
So,
Again,
How much of that property is in production? How much of it is farmland?
about 20, active farmland, about 25 acres, being hayed by Walt Hines and Fieldview Farm,
On which side of the line?
both sides. His farm is in Orange and Derby.
Orange and Derby.
orange,
I'm talking about Fieldview Farm, that
How much of it is in production in Woodbridge?
the entire 11 acres.
It's in production.
Correct.
Jim,
Yes.
what's your question about establishing agricultural commission?
Yeah, that's it. No, we're not asking for that. It's an either-or option, Beth.
Yeah.
In order to qualify for the state monies, we can
Right.
elect to create an agricultural commission, which is a long process.
It requires an interested municipality to comply with the following prior to applying for farm preservation funding.
That's correct.
And that.
That's an or. If you read
program for farmland.
and or, right. See that? If you read
And
down.
or, okay.
So the simple track is for a simple amendment to the open space plan. And we've drafted the farmland preservation plan already.
And we have a designated fund for farmland preservation with a method of funding.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Number 5 on this designated fund for farmland preservation with a method of funding.
That's right. For example, we have already in our town budget $1 million, I believe still, for open space. That would be
We have
potential.
we have $1 million in our capital plan for open space.
Okay.
It would just have to go through the approval process.
Sure.
You know,
So that would be
Go
the-
for referendum.
Right.
Yeah, everything would need to be approved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I just have a thought about this, because what I'm hearing from everybody is that the principle you're putting out there is a no-brainer. Everybody wants to qualify for as much state money as is possible, and of course, there's myriad other approvals that have to take place before any actual real estate will be put into play. You know, my concern is that we just separate out. I don't want you to walk out of here saying or thinking that the Board of Selectmen is in favor of this, or as individuals,
In favor of what?
in favor of such an amendment, but then there to be an expectation that it means that 902 Baldwin is
There's no
then.
expectation.
Well,
There's no
there
expectation.
may not be an expectation, and yet
We're hopeful.
there's an expectation.
Well, we're hopeful that you may see what's been proposed in our town plan for the past 15 years, that it's a property that's important to the green belt around Woodbridge, that it's an important view shed, that if developed will ruin that view shed and degrade the quality of life for all of the Woodbridge properties along Baldwin Road.
Another town.
I'm sorry?
2/3 of it is in another town.
And that presents an opportunity, Susan, because that gives the town of Woodbridge control over the property. If it protected it and turned it over to the land trust. The land trust presently owns property fronting in Woodbridge, extending into Ansonia. Similar case. It's a non-issue. It's protected. It's a Woodbridge address.
But you see what I'm saying, though, about setting up a set of expectations?
There are no expectations. We're hopeful that the board will consider affirmatively the protection of 902 Baldwin. But that's for you to decide. We're not deciding that here. All you're deciding is whether we can be eligible for the state monies. That's the request.
Well,
on the
we're
table.
just, all you're asking, well, so it's slightly different than that, but.
Yeah, so it seems to me, based on what you said, that we're taking 902 Baldwin out of consideration for our discussion today.
That's right.
And that there's been, it seems, a misunderstanding with TP&Z.
They
And that you
became
should-
intertwined, the
So
discussion.
that, and in that case, it's really a matter for TP&Z to make a determination if Baldwin Road is not part of the consideration. Does TP&Z think it is important for other reasons to expedite the change in the plan of conservation and development? And it's a TP&Z question. And it seems as if there was some confusion at TP&Z. And so I would suggest that it go back to them. I don't know if
Okay.
everybody.
Yeah, I think
May I ask your opinion?
Thank
Do you
you.
favor, I've heard Joe say that he favors participation in the program. It favors the amendment. Do you all? I've heard Susan say.
Ultimately,
All right, great. That's what I need to bring back to TP&Z.
Yes, but
That's
we
not
are
the
not
same.
opining about expediting, we are opining
Right.
about
Personal opinion.
eventually getting there. And it's personal opinions, which, as you say,
That doesn't-
that's not our job, so. But, thank you.
Paul, you have any?
No, I think that's it. We prepared a draft of an amendment to the plan, which the town plan and zoning commission has, and they will work on that if they decide to go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you very much for bringing it to
Sure.
our attention and to TP&Z. Sounds like a great program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara Alexander here. Hi, Barbara. Hi. Would you like to tell us about your proposal?
I apologize, just got out of audition. Hello. Hi. My name is Barbara Alexander, and I'm the owner of Alexander Music Studio AMS Performing Arts Center here in Woodbridge at 131 Bradley Road. We have just recently acquired that area since May. We were previously in Camden for 3 years, and upon which at that time we started performing throughout the area, not only in our concerts but in various activities through town. It's important to communicate and be active in town. So we initiated a give back every year where we go and we do something to go back and give to the town. We don't charge anything, we just go and perform. We've done things like, as a matter of fact, we have it coming up again this year, that's August 6th, the National Night Out, where we perform for the town of Hamden for their Awareness Day of medical and all the things that they have for that day. We've also performed for many of their camps throughout the summer. And this year, we wanted to make it on a larger scale, which I've done this previously as a school teacher. I'm a school teacher, music teacher. And that is do a benefit concert. And this benefit concert, I changed it because of the time and the time spans. We're looking at the early part of September, and it will be an initiative instead of for the tornado, because of course the tornado is far past people's minds by that time. Matter of fact, it's probably time for another tornado. But we're going to do child cancer. As you know, it is 8 types of cancers that they'll be celebrating in that month, but doing benefits and research and give backs or what have you. So we're going to do child cancer for that season. And that's where we have already begun to reach out to various celebrities, and we've already done the press releases or what have you. We're just right now trying to settle on the venue. We preliminarily already spoken with the Jewish Community Center that said, hey, you can have it for September 12th, provided, if the town is not able to have you at the town green. So let us know what it is that we're going to be able to do. Our mindset is to have more like a festival awareness, a community involvement. The clients of the studio perform interactively. People from American Cancer Society, have spoken to them. They said that they will talk. I've also asked for who their campaign people that they have, their celebrities, to come in and speak or perform however where they feel as a give back. Also, I would like for vendors to come out, support. How are we going to fund this? We'll be funding this with sponsors, not only with the small businesses in the areas and the banks, but I've already spoken with the Greater New Haven Arts Commission, and they say, yes, we support you. We're going to fund you however way you need it. Just let us know. And so those are all the talks that are happening right now. But the one question that they all have is, where is it going to be? What's the day and what's the time? Which is why I'm back here to you.
And as I understand from the document you sent, because you're requesting to use the town green.
That is correct.
Is that right, for this event?
Yes.
For a charity event.
That is correct.
So, and your school is a private.
Yes,
it's a private for-profit.
Yeah, it's
entity.
Private.
Because I just wanted to say, for the benefit of the board members, I did check into this, and as far as we know, we have never done that before. Allowed the use of the town green for a private entity to come in and do a benefit. And that's not any comment about the merits of what you want to do. It's just background information for the board. I wanted to put that out there. Are there questions from Ms. Alexander?
I had one question for you. I was trying to understand. I did read your proposal. And of course, at the time, it says Oklahoma tornado victims, but...
Yeah, we had to switch that to the childhood cancer research.
I understand that, but I guess my question is, what is the benefit to whatever, in this case, childhood cancer? What is the percentage of what? Of what are you taking in monetarily? And what percentage of that is going to charity? I always am leery of selling something as something that's a charitable event unless I know percentage-wise what the charity's getting and out of what percentage of the take of the sales, or is there vendors there? Do they get part of that? When I call something a charitable event, and that's kind of the way this is being presented, I'd just like to know, what does the charity get?
The charity gets everything that we don't have to pay for. So, for example, here's an example. The Jewish Community Center said we have to pay $250. So we would take the money from there, the $250, and give that to them, and whatever is left, it goes over to the charity. We don't make any money off of this. All we're doing is giving up our time and our talents.
So I listened to you lay out kind of generally what you wanted to do, and talked about a lot of different other entities. It sounds like it could be a fairly large to do, and a lot of people being entertained and coming out to this and so forth, and I would think you want all that. So how would we handle traffic? How would we handle parking? How would we all these logistical matters in terms of, I don't want to put a damper on this, but I'm really leery about how we could really do this.
You said you've had it before. Approximately how many people have you had at other events?
For the Oprah Winfrey Ambassadors event, people were going and coming, so it was probably 500 to 600 people rolling in and out. We blocked off the streets. This is New York City now. In the town, they sort of controlled the in and out of people. We did not have all the stars come in at one time, because that would have been crazy. We had times for them, so there was a certain time where certain people come in and certain people rolled out, and then the next act came in and they rolled out. So it seems like to me it was a sway of, oh, I want to see this person, so that person was there at that time, and then that group of people left. What happened?
Can I ask you where you're advertising?
Well, my clients are over, this is one set.
For this
television and radio.
It will be on Connecticut television?
Correct.
Okay, and radio.
Right.
And you expect it to go from 10 to 4, and your goal is to raise
5,000.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Let me just back up to the beginning, I guess. Your materials say you have 2,600 square feet. And so I assume you're looking for someplace else because that won't accommodate 500 or 600 people or whatever.
Oh, no, we wouldn't dare have it over there right now. That's broken up for private voice or group lessons or
Okay,
whatever.
well, that's where I have to start.
Okay.
In terms of possible facilities for this, you mentioned the JCC, and they're already aboard.
Yes.
You have that. I wonder if the Country Club of Woodbridge might be a suitable showcase that town asset. There are parking lots there. To your point, Tony, is that something?
What day of the week is September 12th?
September 12th, I think it's a Thursday. Yeah, and I've already talked to all the television, every newspaper. So, I mean, it's like I'm just sitting, I have everything sitting, waiting for you. So you can tell us what to do. Because the biggest thing was they said, well, why won't you have it in New Haven? And the one thing I wanted to do was to showcase Woodbridge. This is where we are. I want them to see all the things. Since I've been here, I've taken time throughout the summer to go around, introduce myself, and see the different things, the Strawberry Fest, whatever, what we're having in town. I said, okay, well, it would be great to have something right here. And that way people can see what's available in Woodbridge.
Do you have a rain date? It's on the
A
town
rain
green.
date? No, I don't have a rain date, so I didn't know I had
The
to talk
JCC
to you.
is going to be indoors or outdoors?
Well, they said it was up to us, but we could do it both ways if we needed
Okay.
to.
Just thinking about it better.
So, since you have other alternatives, are you saying that your first choice would be to do it outside on the green?
Yeah, that's my
Whether
first
that's what you-
choice. Yes.
Because I think the JCC, I'm glad to hear you have options, and certainly the Country Club of Woodbridge is something to look into. What I was going to suggest is if you're really interested in the green, and I don't know what the board thinks, is perhaps go into the publicly owned properties so that we can really think about standards for this, since we've never done it before, and it sounds like a pretty big undertaking for the town green. Perhaps that would be the place to go. I'm not sure that could make things happen quickly enough for your September date, but I don't know how the board feels, but it seems that it would be very difficult for us to say, yes, go ahead, without more time even for us to consider it and what the parameters should be for use of the town green by a private entity, which we haven't done before. What are the number limitations? We need to talk about public safety. So I think it's a little bit beyond what we could decide on today. And I don't know if anyone disagrees.
I'm a little concerned about precedent, given it sounds like a most worthy event, but given the nature of your group, that you're a private group, and the town hasn't been there before, if that constitutes some commercial endorsement, I think we're in uncharted territory, and I think that's a concern. It's a concern for me anyway about precedent.
Okay, I'm not understanding what you mean by precedent.
Well, if the town, in a sense, forms a partnership with Alexander Music Studios, what's to stop other commercial, private, for-profit entities from coming to the town for comparable partnerships or endorsements or relationships? And it's I'm not saying it's bad. It's a little foreign, I think, for a public entity to do that.
And also, I have to be honest with you, timing-wise, I think it would be very difficult for us to get all the information we would need. I think we'd certainly have to be talking about policing. It's a big venue. It's the middle of the day. It's all day, and we'd have to be talking about insurance. It's a lot of people. We don't know what type of vendors you plan on having there. Obviously, we don't know if you're talking food, alcohol. But I think there's a lot of issues that you may not have tied up yet, or that we certainly don't have any information yet. And I just trying to give you an opportunity to understand. I don't think timing-wise, even if we decided somehow that it was appropriate for the town to do such a thing for a for-profit, I just don't think timing-wise it can be done by beginning of September. That's my view.
First of all, welcome to Woodbridge. We're always happy when a new business opens up here. But to follow up on what Lawrence said, I had the same thought. I actually think we have a fabulous venue for this, which is the Country Club of Woodbridge. And I would recommend that you call the general manager there and see what he tells you. They're really set up for this in a way that the town green is not. You may get our juices flowing in terms of whether or not we want to think about how to make use of the green for these kinds of things in the future. It sounds like a wonderful idea that you're doing. I applaud you for that. But I agree with those who have said that I don't know if we can make this happen by September 12th.
Yeah. See, I'm used to deadlines.
Right.
Make it happen. I'm like, okay.
But you've given us a lot.
Publicists, I love them. They like, okay, what do you need, Babs? So,
thank you for coming, and we'll be looking for the event for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are you a performer?
Yes.
Oh, you say?
Hopefully, I got the show I went up for today. So we'll see.
Oh, good. I hope you do too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is a adoption of a municipal resolution with respect to emergency management performance grants application. I will entertain a motion to authorize the first selectman to execute and deliver all documents on behalf of the board necessary for the grant application.
So,
Second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Excuse me, who seconded that?
Okay. Joe first did it. Joe first did it.
I heard it. I told her they had to speak up.
So it's just a few minutes before 7. Can we do public comment? Yeah,
That's fast.
that's fast. So I'll open it up for public comment if there are people here who would like to get started, and otherwise we'll go to the next item and come back.
George Geary, Crestview Drive. Prior to Ed's passing, the people from Crestview Drive met with Ed one evening and to talk about the water flow that we're receiving, not only from Elderslie, but the potential impact from the Arnold Peck property. Evidently, the pond is part of the drainage program. It used to be some kind of a canal. It was expanded way back in the early 70s, and they made a pond out of it. Over the years, we've had more and more development. The town putting catch basins up on Peck Hill. All that water's draining our way. We've had a lot of water that came down from I can't think of the street. But anyways, the town has fixed that, so that problem has stopped. But we're still receiving a lot of water. And so we met with Ed, and a plan was developed. Now, I've never seen the plan because we tried to have one meeting. We couldn't get everybody together, and Ed passed, and so I'm not sure with the plan. I've been trying to speak with the Public Works Director, and he supposedly has a copy of this plan, or I believe he does have, because I know the engineer, Bob Piscola, I work with as wetlands, said that he developed it, but he could not give me a copy because it was town property. So I'm not sure where we stand, but I would like to see this project resurrected. The ditch that comes down right now used to be about 5 to 6 feet deep. Right now, it's all of maybe 3 or 4 inches. The added water that we anticipate if this Peck thing ever gets built. Because, of roofs, driveways, roads, anything that's a hard surface does not absorb water, all that water is going to come down. They've already started the drainage. All that water goes to the detention pond, and eventually it comes to us. And on its way down, it picks up silt, and so right now, the pond that used to be 8 feet deep is probably about 3. And we've got pond lilies starting in the pond, and so we really have to do something. Gloria Robinson borders it, and her lots are subject to flooding right now. And so I would really like to see, maybe get Warren Connors to, I've tried to call him 3 times. I've spoken with him once, and he said he's so busy he can't do it now, and he can't get the bids. And I've tried to get him some contractors that I know that have done this kind of work. And so it's not getting any place. So I figured I'd come tonight and see if we can't ask him where does it stand from the selectmen's point of view, so that we can at least talk about it and see where we're going to go.
Any questions?
Elderslie collapsed their retention basin collapsed many years ago, and I guess the town has taken that over, maintaining that now. So I'm not sure whether they get. We have an association, which we pay tax on some of our properties. I'm not sure what happened with Elderslie, but so we pay taxes on the property, and we would just like to get the ditch cleaned out. There's a large island at the end of the ditch now in the pond. I have pictures of that. I think Ed had some of the pictures. I'm not sure where they've gone. But we really like to get that cleaned out because, like I said, it's about 3 inches deep, and a good rainstorm, which we seem to be getting now, will do quite a job. So.
Okay, well, thank you, and I'll definitely follow up with Warren, see where the plan is, and get back to you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good evening, Donald Salato, Green Old Road. I have 4 items that I want to raise. The first being the recent appointments by the Board of Selectmen to the various appointed town boards, commissions, and agencies. I believe some 57 individuals were reappointed or appointed, as the case may be. And I draw the board as the appointing authority's attention to Section 7.6C of our charter, which references Connecticut General Statute Section 9-167A regarding minority representation. It would appear that given the most current roster of new appointments, that there is an excessive number of Democrats on the Town Plan and Zoning Commission. Its regular board is comprised of 6 regular members, 4 of whom are members of the Democrat Party, 2 of whom are members of the Republican. The alternate, which is covered under a separate section, namely let's see. I don't have it right.
Separate section of the charter, is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
There is a statute which regards the alternates as a separate entity. So that would come under minority representation rules in and of itself. There's 3 alternates, all 3 are Democrats. That should be no more than 2 Democrats and 1 Republican or unaffiliated. And if you don't adopt the premise that the alternates constitute a separate, distinct subdivision requiring the minority representation, if you subsume all of the alternates with the regular members, then you have, on a 9-member board, you have too many Democrats. You have 7, which is not permitted.
So can I just ask you a question? I thought that the 3 alternates were 2 Democrats and a Republican. Chris Dickerson, the Republican, has resigned.
Madam First Selectman, you have the wrong.
I'm sorry, you're on the wrong page.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Talk about town plan zone.
Sorry.
But I can see you've done your homework for this meeting, because I'm going to talk about that too.
Because I was looking at that one. I didn't, I'll look at it.
So, at any rate, I think that I don't think that can stand. Oh, excuse me. The relevant section on alternate members constituting a separate and distinct subdivision is section 8.1D of our charter. Presumably, the town council was aware of all these provisions in the town charter as
You
well
always
as
give me information that
the Connecticut
I know.
General Statute.
That's very helpful. I think also the state statute is interpreted to mean exactly what you said, that the alternate positions are separate and distinct from the main part
Right.
of the board.
So by that definition, it would seem to me to be very logical to assume that there are too many. You may have to break the bad news to your spouse tonight, Susan.
I'm not so
but
sure it's bad news. Just saying.
You can ask him how he feels about Baldwin Road at the same time.
I mean, if it's wrong, it's wrong. We have to fix it.
My next item is, and I know that this is not a matter of first impression to certain members of the Board of Selectmen, nor the first Selectman, and that is, it appears that we have on the Country Club of Woodbridge Commission a member who by charter is not permitted to serve, namely Andy Esposito, whom I talked with about this a month ago, and he understood quite readily the issue, and that is covered specifically in the charter, which makes a very specific point that members of the Board of Finance cannot be members of any other town agency or commission. Now, historically, when the first country club body was formed, it was a committee, and I believe that is how in the case of I believe the town treasurer, which also has a similar prohibition, inasmuch as it was designated a committee, that person was continued to serve on that committee. But now that committee has since morphed into a formal status as a commission, and it's very clear. The charter is unequivocal and unqualified with respect to the prohibition, and it's regrettable, but this is pertained now for about 2 years, and that is a critical commission, and it needs all the support and input, legitimate input and membership that it can get. And when I spoke with Andy Esposito, he understood the conflict and had a distinct preference to continue on and be reappointed to the Board of Finance, and we, as Republicans, supported that nomination, and you folks were kind enough to accede to that and reappoint him. But there's a problem here in view of the charter. So I think that needs to be taken care of right away, is known, and that group is meeting. And I think, frankly, it casts some question as to the legality of any matters that come before it. It should be done post-haste. There's resumes of all kinds of people that came forward, at least I know personally, that to the Republicans, responded to the Republicans' inquiry for people who might be interested in being considered for nominations for service on boards and commissions. I'm sure that Tony, Anastasio, and Joe Dye can provide you with some of those names. I'm sure you have some fine names too. And we respect and admire the commitment of Andy Esposito. Andy Esposito also respects and admires the rule of law. Item number 3, and this is where I channel the clairvoyance of our first selectman, regards the resignation of Chris Dickerson as an alternate to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I draw the board's attention to Section 8-9E of the Charter, which talks about if the person whose failure or ceasing to serve has caused the vacancy in any elective office or upon any elected board is a member of a major political party, then the vacancy shall be filled by a member of the same political party. I would think that does not require any legal opinion or interpretation. One of the nice things about the English language is it has many nuances, but it also has some things that are rather plain and require no Delphic or oracular interpretations. Or even one from town council, for that matter.
Is that a word? I didn't.
I'll fill you in on it. There's a lot of things that you need to bone up on. I'm going to help you out with it, Jerry. I'm going to help you out with it.
And it's not a word, it should be.
Well, it is now. And finally, I noticed on tonight's, I want to speak parenthetically about, in support of what I believe came before you folks, and I understood the unfortunate publication of minutes, which reading the minutes on the farmland preservation issue could lead to, again, plain reading, could lead to a rather confused message. But I will say this, one of the most important things about updating a town plan of conservation and development, which by statute has to be done every 10 years, is that there's a carrot and stick attached to it. If a municipality is not in compliance with the 10-year updates, that failure is an excuse and a statutory reason for the funding authority, the state, to deny any grants because you're not in compliance with being updated. And it seems to me to be a very, very sound policy and proactive, given the traditions of this town and the veneration of land that we have in this town, that a signal be sent to town plan and zoning. Frankly, I don't understand how that board in its wisdom decided to refer that issue here. It'd be as unusual and as untoward as if they wanted your opinion on a subdivision application that had come before. They have unique status as a independent governing body here, and they have all the power to so enact that as town council brilliantly put forth in his opinion letter. And my last one is, I notice on tonight's agenda, there's an executive session regarding some of the legal goings-on involving the Inland Wetlands Agency and the Fire Commission. I'm a little nonplussed as to why that is being held in executive session. I'm well aware with the safeguards on matters involving litigation, but this is litigation involving two town departments. It's the town against the town. I don't understand what should be secret or clandestine about what's going on between these two competing town agencies, and I frankly think that given the compelling public interest, that it is improper to have that matter taken up in executive session. Mr. Weiner, I'm ready for my close-up.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. I am Lachlan Reedy, and I reside at 6 Fieldstone Drive. I came this evening to comment on item number 3, the Farmland Preservation Grant. I have been a member of the Woodbridge Land Trust for a number of years, and I'm currently the president. It's unfortunate that the TPC and Baldwin Road issue were lumped in together as to the altering the plan and putting Baldwin Road as part of part and parcel and referred to you. The Land Trust is in complete support of altering the town plan to provide a farmland preservation paragraph, chapter, whatever. It's important to the town to be eligible for any grant money that we can get. Obviously, it's to our benefit, regardless of what the parcel is, whether it be 902 Baldwin or any others. But they do come up from time to time, and not to be in the driver's seat when they do appear it would be unfortunate and misguided, I feel. There was some discussion earlier about 902 Baldwin having part of its property in Derby. We have a parcel that has land in Ansonia. We are a 501(c) and a C3 rather, and filed proper paperwork with Ansonia, and the taxes were abated, and there's no issue at all as far as our managing of that property. And should 902 Baldwin come before you as an option for referendum, disregard that part that's in Derby. It's one big parcel, and it should be considered as a whole, not two separate pieces. We've had very good luck in filing our petitions with Ansonia, and it has not been an issue. You asked for the taxes that we paid on it back, but that's something else. They don't have a mechanism to return them. I certainly hope that's not the case here in Woodbridge. However, through back channels, if the TPC gets the word that, whether it be as a group or as individuals, that you support them to move forward, and that a portion of that of the town plan to include this, it would be very beneficial. It doesn't have to be done as a lump, whole big package that's, I think, has another year to go before it actually has to be submitted. The town plan should, as it was stated at the Planning Commission, Planning and Zoning, a living and breathing document that can be changed at any time, and that really needs to be done now to benefit our town. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Alan, I'm going to stop in tomorrow and make a formal request or ask if you would join us at one of our meetings, which happen to be on the last Wednesday of the month, and just see what the Land Trust does and what it's about, and meet our members. But I will do that formally tomorrow.
Thank you. I would love to do that. Thanks for your comments.
You bet.
Anyone else? Public comments?
You are welcome. Good evening. How are you?
Did I miss anything? Tony? Hi, Tony. Come on, go ahead. A good thing when you can't count, you're the assessor.
Good evening, Betsy.
Good evening. Basically, I just wanted to come before the board tonight because there's a lot of new members and we're starting a new process. Well, not a new process, but we're starting revaluation, which is something that we do every 5 years. But this revaluation is one of the ones where we do full inspections because it's our 10-year. So you as the board members will probably receive a lot of questions, phone calls, you'll be at a party, somebody will ask you something. So I just wanted to be here if you have questions for me to make sure that everybody's on the same page. We all answer the same questions the same way. The public knows their rights as citizens. I passed out to you the sample of the letter that we send to anybody who is required to have a full inspection of their property under this revaluation. It doesn't encompass everybody. It encompasses about 2/3 of the town because I do it myself. I track by dates. So if somebody is not up for a full inspection, they will not receive a full inspection right now. That's not to say they won't be reevaluated next year. They just don't need a site visit. Right at the present moment, there are about 1,500 households that need a site inspection, which is about 42% of the properties that we have in the town. Those site inspections we done from now until through next October 1st of 2014, hoping to be done by the beginning of the summer so we have some flexibility because we do reviews and things like that. They're done in phases. I start from the north end of the town and I move down, usually doing about 350 properties in a block, sending out a first request letter, which you have in front of you. The second request letter is very similar to this, except for on the second page it says this is your second request. It's important that you read or know that the general statute, the 12-62 general statute, asks for us to do a full inspection. It's also important to know that the public is not required to allow me in. So I don't want anybody to tell them they have to. It obviously increases the integrity of the process if they do, but if they feel uncomfortable with that, by no means do I want them to do something they're uncomfortable with. The statute does also encompass us allowing to do a view, which means that down to the point where I can pull up in front of your property, look at your house, and I've satisfied the town's requirement to view. Do we really want that on every property? Absolutely not, because that would just, it wouldn't make things really good and tight-knit. But there are going to be people who are going to feel uncomfortable with the process. And they need to know that they're not forced to do it. They're not even forced to allow me on their property. By law, I don't even have the right to step foot on their property. But do we want to be able to do the inspections of the interior? Absolutely. Do we want to be able to do the exterior? Absolutely. But again, you as a selectman, they're going to be who they're going to come to and say, do I have to? And you need to know that those are their rights as an individual. This process is only as good as the cooperation of the public. So as selectmen, I encourage you to encourage them to, comply. Only because the more people who are viewed, the better off and the integrity of the process is to compare apples to apples. If we get into 50% of the properties, those 50% of the people will be okay, and the other 50% of the people, it's not to say that they'll be getting away with something, but we want the process to be as refined as possible. So if you get a phone call, and ask if they have to, please tell them they don't, but encourage them to comply only because it just makes the process better for everybody. Right now, I wanted to show you where we are in the process. The red is basically everybody who needs an inspection. So I'll come to you once a month if you want and show you how we progress. And by the end of the process, this will be white. You won't see any more red dots. It will be all done. I mean, you see the country club, you see the water company. Those are, you know, the country club obviously is something that I'll go through with like Brad or Joe and just take a walk through. But that's not a priority because I can do that at any time. Obviously, the individual property owners are who we want to target right now. And then the water company, I've already met with some of them, and we have timing that we'll do with the water company properties. So that's how we look right now. And every month or so, I'll come to you and show you how we look and our progress, and then you can have an idea of how we're progressing. And if you have any questions, as you see, hopefully next time I come to you, this top half right here, which is where I'm starting, will be almost all filled in, white. And that will show you that I'm actually making my way down here. And why you see red on the bottoms will be because those people aren't required at the present moment. They already are under statutory requirements. They've already met their 10 years. I visited the property within the last 10 years, so that's why they're already filled in. So, does anybody have any questions for me?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay,
I was just going to say, I think I missed it, but how often will you update this?
I can come as often as you want. I mean, probably once a month is good because I do send them out in sections monthly. So, you know, if you want me to come to the monthly meeting and just give you a 10-minute, 15-minute update, I'm happy to do it. It's not, and if you want that, I think you should have it so you can get an idea of where I am and if I'm on track, if I'm doing my job, if, you know, I mean, I don't have a problem with that.
What percentage of people do you usually find allow you into the house? Is it pretty regular each time?
We have 3,679 properties in town. At the present moment, I have never been inside of 123 of them. At some point in my employment of 18 years. So it's a pretty good.
That's great. Good. Any other questions?
Well, just as a note, I had the full house
He did
cavity
have the
search
inspection done. He
by
complied.
Betsy, and it wasn't too painful. So.
And also, I want people to understand, we're starting at the north end and ending at the south. So if I hit somebody in the north end and I find changes, those changes will be implemented at the time of revaluation. Not to penalize them because they're the first people I visited. I'm one human being. I can't be in 1,500 places at a time. So it's important for them not to say, oh, I'm going to put it off until next October because, I put on a deck. We want to make it fair for everybody. And because I'm the only one doing it, every change is going to be implemented next year. So everybody goes together at the same time, so it's fair across the board.
That's good. Anything else?
If you come up with any decorating ideas, let me know. Looking at all these houses.
Thank you, Beth.
So one more question, just this, so this will take you a year.
I hope not, but I gave myself over a year.
Okay, but, so it's for the grand list that would be used in?
2014
For the
will be.
15-16 budget.
Yes,
Like the year's doing the budget after.
That's right.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very
Thank
helpful.
you.
Thank you.
And Tony, you can let me know what their
I will.
schedule is.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay, the next is the Director of Finance and Administration report.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have a preliminary month for June, and I just wanted to give you a little background, especially for our new members, about my monthly report. The objective of the monthly report is to help you understand where we are in our general fund. So to the extent you feel like there's any changes you'd like to make to the report, you can certainly give me a call and we can do that for you. It's to help you better understand our general fund. So what I have for you is a summary of some of the major items in the month and projected through the end of the year. This happens to be through June, so it's these are some preliminary year-end figures. and then the system report behind it. So through June, we have a budgetary surplus of about $130,000 projected. And that projects that would leave our fund balance of $4.66 million. It's about 10.3% of our budget. So our fund balance as a percent of our budget is one of the benchmarks that we use to determine whether or not we have a healthy fund balance or whether or not we do not have a healthy fund balance. It's used by also a lot of rating agencies and credit agencies to sort of monitor town by town, along with some other items, including grand list and some other figures. But, so we like to keep track of that figure, and we've been historically 10 to 11% mark throughout most of our time here. That's sort of where we like to keep that. You keep your fund balance for essentially a rainy day fund or sort of some stability in your operations, and to use when we really need it. On our revenue side of our budget, some of the highlights are in taxes, and we have a surplus of $170,000 for taxes through June. And that's primarily due to some large back tax collections that we collected. So it's something that we had not necessarily budgeted, but we received some large taxes in the tax office, which is the majority of that amount. In department revenues, we have a projected shortfall of about $489,000. Now, the reason why we have such a large projected shortfall there is that's where our golf revenues are, and our golf revenues are projected to experience a shortfall of $509,000. So you can see of the $489 that's projected for a shortfall in department revenues consists of everything from transfer station fees to building permit fees to rec fees, and you'll see there's only a $20,000 difference there. So most of the other department budget revenues are, some are up a little, some are down a little. Building permits are doing a little better than expected. Some other fees are not quite as good, but they pretty much average out. And then the golf revenues are a significant shortfall there. I wanted to just mention to you the golf operations in general. There is a surplus projected in expenditures in the golf budget, which gives a estimated shortfall of the operation itself of $386,000. So as you can see, that's up from last month, as the primary earning months of May and June were not really all that great.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
I have a lot of concern over that number. Even before I was sitting on this board, I was sitting back there every month, and I watched these projections go from $175,000 surplus just about 3 months ago.
Well, it was a $75,000 shortfall. That was about that's what we had in April, March to April.
Right,
and then May went to 150. Then it was at 250, and now it's at 380.
Well, it went from
so you're correct.
A surplus to a shortfall to a larger shortfall, to a very large shortfall. And I'm wondering why these projections are so far off.
Because a lot of the revenues we were anticipating in May and June were not realized.
700,000 or 600,000?
No, it's just.
Well, we went from
a $75,000 shortfall to 386, right? So that's. So that's.
Well, I actually go back a month before. I actually go back a month before in a golf course budget that was prepared that basically projected a windfall. But in any case, even from last month, the month before it went from 125 to 250, I believe 250 now to 386.
Right.
Not using the full 509 number.
Right.
But weather aside, I mean, weather happens every year in the golf course. I'm concerned about what is it that's happening that's creating these numbers to be so far. I mean, they're projections, so I'm wondering why we're falling so far behind on projections. Are we guessing it too much? Are we planning on too
I think the best thing to do would be to have some of the members of the, you can ask some of the employees who work directly on the course who can maybe better answer some of your day-to-day questions about where the revenues are and why they're not where they're realized and what the projections are so far off from. And then I have to work with Casper and members of the Casper group and the commission to come up with these figures.
And one last question.
Sure.
To follow up with that, and from what I understand, because I went and asked the other day, pool membership is basically full. There's literally a few pool memberships left.
Right.
So this is all on the golf course end of it.
Correct.
And I'm worried about the projections that we've been getting from Casper.
Right.
And just how far off those have been.
That's a good question.
Do we have a separate profit and loss for the golf?
We do, and we used to get those on a regular basis, and we can certainly do that every month if you'd like. It's part of our package.
Because otherwise,
That's not a problem. The Golf Commission gets them on a monthly basis, and you can certainly get those.
That would
also.
be great. Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned with this kind of number. It's a lot of money that can go into other sources in town and other very good projects that I'm sure are going to come in front of us. So I think we have to micromanage it closer.
Sure, that's no problem.
And just to follow up on what Tony said, I think it would be a good idea to have Casper join us at monthly meetings so that they can answer the questions and we can be a little closer to the operation. Totally.
They can bring their profit and loss, their monthly statements.
Certainly.
Details.
Yep, absolutely. It's definitely something like a good idea. On our expenses, the Amity, we discussed this in the past, there's a surplus in Amity of about $85,000. We had a waste management surplus at $40,000 due to reduced tonnage and mainly recycling and municipal solid waste than we had budgeted for. Human Services has a surplus in about $25,000 in some part-time wage accounts for some fluctuation in their wages, where they had some surplus from some folks they didn't have to bring in. Same thing with recreation, the $23,000 surplus in recreation, also in wage accounts. And currently the Woodbridge Board of Education is reporting a possible surplus of about $42,000. However, that's not final, and I'm not sure once they get a final figure, I'll certainly let you know what that is.
So we don't know what the possible part of that is?
No, that's all they told me, was that it's possible. There's some possible other adjustments that may occur, and that as soon as the board does or does not act on those, then he will let us know.
Can I ask you a question on there's a line item here, fund balance used in budget?
Sure.
Negative 400.
So, absolutely. So the way this works is the net operations of revenues minus expenditures is a positive $130,000.
Right.
Okay. In the other revenue section, which is detailed in this report, but is summarized in this report, is a contribution from fund balance. So every year that we budget, in this particular year, $400,000 for fund balance use in the budget. So basically, if our fund balance is $4.9 million on June 30th of 2012, we anticipate $130,000 in operations surplus. However, we do have a $400,000 surplus use of fund balance in that figure. So that's historically how I've shown it here, is that you can see that the net there is a sort
so
of loss.
So the surplus budgetary operation surplus is a function of 400,000 coming out of our fund balance to...
Correct. So in actual operations, there's a loss of
negative 3, the difference.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
But it should be emphasized that's an annual contribution from the fund balance.
It's a planned
For as long as I've been on this board.
I understand.
Yeah, but you're correct.
It's a policy. I
And
just wanted to understand.
when we get some final figures, some final audited figures, you'll see exactly what you just said, that in actual terms, it's a cash basis, is a loss of a few $100,000.
So Tony, let me ask you one more question about that.
Sure.
Where does that 400,000 number come up? Is that a set number every year?
In the
or
budget
you look at a
process,
percentage of what the fund balance is, and that's...
What it is it's a discussion during the budget process amongst the board when you make your recommendations to the Board of Finance as to where you feel fund balance is an appropriate level, and whether you think you should take more out, whether you should think you should take less out, and where the tax rate is in comparison to what you're thinking.
Okay, so typically it has $400,000.
It's been $400,000 for several years. Yeah, since I can remember. Any other questions? Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
funding requests.
There's a tax refund.
Oh, sorry. Tax refunds. Okay, Tony, tax refunds.
So each month we do if there are some, we'll do tax refunds, which is generally required to use refunds for overpayments of real estate, motor vehicle, and personal property taxes when requested by taxpayers. So you can see that in the letter from Pat Crisco. And we have real estate tax refunds totaling $2,167.40. Motor vehicle refunds totaling $1,896.95. With our total refunds for July of $4,064.35.
Any questions?
Would you like a motion to approve?
Let's make that motion. Thank you. Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Now we're turning to fund transfer.
But yeah.
Okay. The first funding request is number 1314-01 in the amount of $14,350. The request is to fund AKF Engineers LLP to provide consulting services to conduct a security system review for Beecher Road School. Is there a motion to approve the funding request? So moved. Second? Thank you. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
And every month we'll have one of these. This is just a summary of all of our transfers and how much of contingency we have remaining, so you can keep an eye on that.
The next line item transfer is number 1314-02 in the amount of $65,000. The request is to transfer FEMA funds to the employee fringe benefit accounts that were affected by employee overtime from the storms in fiscal year 2013. Is there a motion to approve the line item transfer?
So,
Second? Second. Thank you. Any discussion or questions?
so we're transferring this to FEMA funds.
Correct. We're transferring grant money that we receive from FEMA for overtime-related expenses in our fringe benefit accounts. Generally, whenever there's a overtime, generates FICA, Medicare reimbursements, matches, and also retirement costs, also driven off of that. So we're reimbursed from FEMA for that, and so we have to now transfer that into the expense line to pay for.
So it's really just
It's just a transfer. It's just a bookkeeping transfer.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The next transfer item is number 1314-03 in the amount of $15,221 to allow the purchase of a replacement exchange server and associated software. These funds will be transferred from closed capital projects. Is there a motion to approve the transfer? So moved. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Tony, did you want to-
It's just that we had originally, we were hoping to replace this next year in the budget, but we've had some failures on it. It's about 5 years old, and we don't think we can wait that long.
So I might be asking a question again that I have the answer to here, but rather than look at closed capital projects.
These are a few projects that have happened over the past year or so that have funds left in them.
All right,
So
so
you're-
completed projects.
Correct. They're completed projects and we're reappropriating them for other purposes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That completes the transfers. The next item is a lease extension agreement with the tenants in the Darling property. Is there a motion to authorize the lease extension agreement? So moved. Second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Well, I'm sorry, just town council has his...
We drafted this
Okay, so...
in consultation with Mr. Menzies.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. The next item is authorization for the town clerk to apply for and receive $4,000 historic documents preservation grant. Is there a motion to approve receipt of the grant? So So moved. So second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on
I
this?
think this is just wonderful. I just want to comment and applaud Stephanie for continuing to do this every single year. She gets it every year, right, Tony? She's awarded this every year. And continuing to scan documents and save them and preserve them. It's good.
Thank you. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The next item on the agenda is the Personnel Committee report with respect to hiring a public works mechanic.
If you recall, last month, we had authorized the hire of a mechanic for Public Works after a process to find a successful candidate, and that candidate has turned that down after, I guess, some discussions with his current employer. So we had to go back out for advertisement, and we did, and received close to 40 applications. And the recommendation, unanimous recommendation of our panel to the Personnel Committee was Edward Jensen III, and he has an extensive background in mechanic work, including a current position with the DOT, where he works on trucks very, very similar to ours. And we thought personality-wise and work ethic was such that he'd be a great fit for the town. So that was our recommendation.
The Personnel Committee met just prior to this meeting and unanimously agreed that this was something the board should go ahead with. So is there a motion to authorize offering the position and hiring Edward Jensen III as a public works mechanic?
Just one caveat to that. That's pending a successful background check and the usual testing that we go through, drug alcohol testing, and that sort of thing.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
With the caveat.
With the caveat. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item is Town Council's report.
I think the only report that I have is the executive session.
So we will now recess this meeting to go into executive session, and we would ask everyone to leave other than the board members, and I will invite Tony Genovese, Jerry Weiner, and Jerry Shaw to remain. Joe Gibson, this has to do with the fire, and no votes were taken, and we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the town clerk's report. Hey, do you want to say anything about that?
No, this is just our monthly report of town clerk fees that were collected that we submit every month.
Thank you.
We approve it every month? We acknowledge receipt.
Acknowledge receipt.
I'll acknowledge receipt, okay.
A motion to acknowledge receipt from Beth. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The next item is approval of minutes. And we first have June 12, 2013, Board of Selectmen public hearing on the Neighborhood Assistance Act. And Beth Heller, Susan Jacobs, and Lawrence Berthier are the members who were present. So I would ask if there's a motion to accept these minutes and a second from one of you.
So moved.
I'll make the second.
Okay. And all in favor among the three of you?
Aye.
Any opposed? The next board minutes are the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen of June 12th. Likewise, the same members were present. Jerry Shaw distributed a revised draft copy of the minutes. The changes are on page 5, where details were added about the personnel matters. They hadn't been in the earlier draft. That's the only change. So I would ask for a motion from one of the members from the...
So moved.
Thank you, Beth. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We now have resignations before us, and it has been the practice of this board to vote on accepting resignations, and we will continue that practice at least this evening. We have the resignation of David Bernard from the Beecher Board of Education. Is there a motion to accept the resignation?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And we send him a letter of thank you for your service. With regret, we accept this resignation. Thanks.
And likewise, Chris Dickerson is resigning from the Zoning Board of Appeals alternate position to take his seat as a regular member. Congratulations, Chris. Is there a motion to accept the resignation?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and now we have appointments. You have in your packet the resume of Emily Melnick. Is there a motion to appoint Emily Melnick to fill the vacancy of the Woodbridge Board of Education?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments about Emily? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And is there a motion to appoint Alan Davidson, that's to reappoint Alan Davidson to the EMS Commission?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We are now at the first Selectmen's report. Yeah. So, on the agenda, there are a few items that I wanted to bring up at the meeting this evening. The first is with respect to the Country Club of Woodbridge, and we've already had a pretty robust discussion about the finances at the Country Club. I think one of the charges that we will see ahead of us is how to deal with the Country Club property. I think the Commission is working very hard to look at the operations of the Country Club, and I think we've raised significant questions about that, and we'll have reports from the operators and perhaps the Commission. But it's my recommendation that this board appoint an ad hoc committee to look at the larger question of the use, the entire use of the Country Club property, and that we appoint an ad hoc committee to do that. I would like to have the committee in place by the end of September, sooner if possible. And what I would request of the board members is if you have ideas about the scope of this or how we should do it, I would love to hear them. If you could get your suggestions to me or to Jerry, that would be very helpful, because I think this is one of the very important issues that we're facing. I think that was clear from Tony's report. So if anyone wants to comment on that now, that would be great.
Do you have a sense of the membership? How many? The appointment process?
No, I think it will be an informal appointment process, but I'd like to have buy-in and discussion from the board. And I don't, numbers, I mean, you know, I'm really open to suggestions and ideas from everyone about that.
It's a great idea.
Thanks. Now, for liaison assignments, this board has traditionally had liaisons to most, although not all, of the commissions. And I will ask each of you to serve on 2 or 3 commissions going forward. Exactly what it means to be a liaison is, I think, something we should have further discussion about. We don't need to do that tonight, but it shouldn't be too overly burdensome to be a liaison, but to really bring back essential information that this board needs. So the liaisons will be for Amity Regional School District number 5, Lawrence Grothier, Country Club of Woodbridge, Susan Jacobs, Fire Commission, Beth Heller, Human Services, Joe Dye, Town Plan and Zoning, Beth Heller, Inland Wetlands, Joe Dye, Conservation Commission, Tony Anastasio, Library Commission, Joe Dye, Police Commission, Susan Jacobs, Recreation Commission, Tony Anastasio, Woodbridge Board of Education, Lawrence Grothier, and Economic Development, where we did not have a liaison before, Tony Anastasio.
Excuse me, who's to the Woodbridge Board of Ed?
Lawrence.
And the Police Commission?
Susan.
And Library Commission? You said it all so
Library
fast.
is Joe. I have it all written down, Jerry. I can give it to you. Okay? I'll keep it separate for you. Subcommittee appointments. Likewise, there has been, for the past few years, we've had 2 subcommittees of this board, Personnel and Ordinance. And for the present, I would like to ask Lawrence and Tony to serve on Personnel, and Joe and Susan to serve on the Ordinance committees. The next item is a Board of Selectmen retreat. We had commented, several of us had noticed that we didn't really have orientation for the Board of Selectmen. And Tony Genovese is checking with COST, the Council of Small Towns, about the kinds of board orientations and retreats that small towns have engaged in before. Some of the concepts or topics to cover, I think, would certainly be a presentation on freedom of information. And we can talk about some of these other issues, I believe, like the role of liaisons and other structural issues. So here again, if you have ideas or requests for what we cover at the retreat, please let me know or let Jerry know. And also something about your schedules over probably sometime in September. That would be the goal, to meet sometime in September. And I would contemplate probably a half day of meeting to orient the board.
We're going to get to Hawaii and back in a half day.
I was thinking Canada.
The one thing is we will not do any trust falls at our retreat.
That's good to know.
Something else that I would ask people to think about, and this is something we can discuss more in detail, is to what extent we may want to move to electronic packets rather than paper packets. The paper takes quite a bit of time to put together. It is costly, in the end probably more costly than doing electronic. On the other hand, I know there are some reports that people like to see and read, so it's something for us to be thinking about if we want to change. I know that the Beecher Board of Education does their meetings with electronic reports, and we should consider reports.
Maybe this board would like to invite Margaret or a representative of that board to come and present its electronic
experience with that.
Yeah.
Sure. People would like to hear that. We'll do that. That's a good idea. Two other items. One is not on here. I just wanted to mention that I was at the dedication at the Teen Center of Ed's Cafe, and it was another very appropriate and moving tribute to Ed and his support for the teens and the Teen Center. If you have a chance to stop by there, it's really worth seeing. It was really very, very nice. And Tony and I met with our emergency management team. That includes the police chief, the deputy police chief, Joe Kellauer was there, Mary Ellen Baraka from Human Services, Fire Chief Sean Rowland, two Woodbridge United Illuminating Liaisons, and Operations Manager Warren Connors, just to get some sense of what the emergency plan is for the town. And it appeared very clear that people are working very well together. They've established very good communication amongst themselves. Tony pointed out that the change from Storm Irene to Storm Sandy was really noticeable.
It was definitely noticeable. The communication during Irene, during Sandy was much better than Irene. Amongst the major groups, which would be the utilities, the state, the town, the residents, just that communication was much better than Sandy than it was in Irene. Irene was a little chaotic.
And it seems that people know what they need to do. They distributed their responsibilities and communicate well. And one of the things that came out of that meeting was how important the reverse 911 Connecticut alert system is. And I just wanted to ask board members, if you know, when you're out and about talking to people, encourage them if they haven't signed up for Connecticut Alert. It's on our website on the first page when you go to the town website, and it's really important for public safety and helps people to sign up for that. So I think that's really important. I also wondered if the board would like to have a presentation by the emergency team so everyone can hear what they're doing. Would that be of interest to people? A summary report?
Definitely.
So we will schedule that as well. So it was great. That's it for my report. Joe, do you have anything?
Yes, ma'am. Two quick ones. Both of them are on, one's on gas, natural gas, and one's on the microgrid. Let me do the microgrid first. The microgrid, our town and the town of Wyndham are the only two towns that are still in the running for funding, which in our case can be up to $6.9 million. We got the stuff in on time. They flagged it of one minor correction, which was taken care of, and it's been accepted. We have a certificate enunciating that. The first time it was 10 questions, the second time it was 26 questions, and this time it was 97 pages, so you get an idea of what we were working on. The governor and Commissioner Estes are very much involved in reviewing these, and as you all may recall, the governor was here with Commissioner Estes at Amity High School in the late fall to praise the town for getting the natural gas and the microgrid project. I don't know how soon we're going to know on that because this one is undergoing quite a study. But there's only 2 towns under 10,000 that are in the running, ourselves and Wyndham. The second item is the gas thing. Everybody asks about, can I get gas? I live 2 blocks away from here or whatever. And they had a meeting with PURA, P-U-R-A, which is the, I guess you could answer the question better than I.
Public Utility Regulatory Authority.
Right, but they're the guys that control the flow of money and other things. And that took place last week. I do not have any results. I'm working with John Dovis of the gas company, who has been one of our contacts, and we'll probably have Mr. Dovis here in our July meeting. He's going to come earlier and meet with the first selectman on some other matters, but we don't know if we're going to get any help on that yet. But at least it's looking favorable. You haven't got a thumbs down on it, so we're still alive.